I would call maybe a best of presentation. I gave a presentation a few weeks ago, and I'm just sharing some of the information that seemed to have the most interest from the people who attended, hoping that we'll start a conversation and give you some ideas to work with. And my first slide is actually an AI generated slide. You can see the little Gemini there, and I just asked it. I'm like, here's what I want to show. And literally they got it the first time. So in the middle, of course, the bullseye is always a conversion, whatever that happens to be, and then surrounded by the customer journey. We don't, of course, have time to talk about all the things I would love to talk about, but just as an overview, infrastructure, your website's technical, the way it's built and the way it's hosted make a big difference to how you rank, both in AI and not. So you can't ever forget the basics, and then having control systems to make sure you maintain things. What we're mostly going to talk about today is visibility and optimization. And again, just some highlights because, that's really what we have time for, but I'm happy to discuss anything else. And I think Nicole's going to be sending out a more expansive deck. So we can go forward. Okay, so visibility is getting found. So people now find you everywhere. We went from search engine optimization to search everywhere optimization. And then now we have the AI optimization. What the key things for this are consistency, ranking, and authority. Things really need to be consistent. And I'll talk about why a little bit more, but that's super important so that when Luz is doing her social media and Justin is doing ads, if you're with the same organization, they should have the same message, the same terminology. It's really important. Branded versus non-branded. Is it about your organization or the events at your organization? This is kind of switched back. A month ago or two, branded was not really something that was effective. And now, because of AI's change in what they're doing, it's become more and more effective. And that's what I think is the most important thing we can do, or one of the most with AI, is keep on track of what the changes are. Because if you're still doing something, that you did 3 weeks ago that the AI engines have changed, you're not moving forward. And optimization is really not optional.
Next slide.
Okay. So I'm going to talk just in general how AI works for a second, and Nicole's going to give you some great information about the individual engines. But what's really important to understand how to optimize this is what AIs do is they pull all the information into their system now. That's why they have all these big server farms that they're putting in everywhere, because they need to store that data. And they have then a baseline of your data already in their system. And so then they look at that data and they're like, how is Acme Theater doing? Is everything consistent? Do we have a lot of information that says the same thing? Because then they're like, okay, they're an authority. They're giving truthful information. And then based on that ranking, when you make a query like into AI or, that's picked up from Perplexity, then it says, oh yeah, these are really good sources. So then at that moment of the query, they'll go back to their website quick or do a couple polls, Reddit somewhere, and get additional information. So it gives you fresh information. So the more authority you have, also the more fresh the information is. And the question is, how does an AI describe us? And what's the way we can figure that out? Just ask it. Right. You can go, there's free services that you can check your AI ranking and such, but just go to the engines. Most of them have a free version and say, tell me about Acme Theater. What do people say about Acme Theater? And you can research that, and it's super helpful. Nicole. So here's some data about AI search. I'll just let you read it. But the last one is super important. And this was actually my wow moment that just happened, a couple months ago. But how when you're designing your customer path, you're like, okay, they maybe go to social media or they're somewhere else and they hit my homepage. And then we want them to go here, 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 check out. Hopefully in as few clicks or less. If your social media is putting targeted pages on that, they may get on it a little quicker. But here's what happens when somebody does their searches in a search engine. they get that information and comparisons depending how they use it a lot earlier. So they are actually down their decision path already because they've done the comparison. So what you say on your website might not have a huge impact on that decision because they've made it prior to be getting it in. And if you are putting the right structured data and consistent messaging, these people also land further down your path. The AI isn't going to send them to the homepage. They're going to send them to something relevant to the questions you're asked, like what's going on Saturday night. And you've picked, I want to go to Acme Theater. So it's going to show you that page on it. So this is huge. It saves you a lot of work. And it really is a payoff for all the work you're putting into doing AI. Nicole? Okay. Consistency, consistency, consistency. So based on what I've described and what AI has stored, you can see why it's important for AI to understand that everything's consistent, it's authoritative, you're giving it good information. It's when you're writing your content, you need to have coordination between your website content writers, your advertising, your social media, Reddit. I'm going to here give a plug to Reddit. For whatever reason, the AI engines love Reddit right now. So if you don't have a Reddit page, set it up, start talking about your organization, interacting, asking questions, because the AIs will eat that up. And then make sure you have a lot of factual, important content like parking information, accessibility, the things that they're going to look for in that. You can go ahead, Nicole. Okay. And doing this also helps you rank in Google. Google still gets about 60% of the searches. So this is not at all to discount Google. It's to do it in a way that helps them both. So make sure your event pages have a lot of detail. Your internal links are good. Maybe it's to the actors, to whomever it might be. Make sure your visit pages like parking, seating have a lot of information. They're easy to find. The URL stays the same. Love content that's really about people and giving information. FAQs are like something AI loves. And I know they take up a lot of page, but you can accordion them and AI won't matter. But we highly recommend doing FAQs on every page, as well as an overview page of FAQs, which can be new ones or combined ones. But because FAQs are what people are asking, that you're finding out people are asking. So that's what AI wants to know as well. One more, Nicole? Okay, just a little bit more about content optimization and how you approach it. Key phrases are still important, and that's what you can use for your consistency. I'm sure you already do that for your optimization with Google. It's just as important and really is the driver of your consistency. Your content answers questions before people ask it. Headings, it's great to have them as questions. I know that's maybe a little maybe anti what you want to do with your content, but keep it in mind.
When was I on? Go ahead.
Okay. So again, content in clusters, you can have it, grouped out in page because these do get a lot longer. So see, Alexis. And these do get a lot longer as you go. Structured data. For those of you who don't know what structured data is, it's a coding level on your website. It really does probably need a technical person to at least set it up. Some CMSs have it as part where you can enter your own. But this is where AI and Google and everybody comes first because you're serving up to them what you want to hear. That's what structured data does.
Okay, so LeMay gave a great overview of how AI works. And I read last week a really interesting email newsletter edition from the Marketing Millennials by Daniel Murray. I don't know if you get that. But he went down the rabbit hole of each model and how they work. So I think it's important to understand that this is not Google. All of them work a little bit differently. So right now, the main models are ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok. Yes, I made my personal opinion down there. Microsoft Copilot and Perplexity. And I'm just going to really quickly go through each one. So ChatGPT is the most popular model right now. It's the one that we hear the most on the news, and therefore they can be pickier about who they feature. So I thought another interesting thing that I learned was that the model is running multiple searches behind every single query, and that's getting every pickier every month. LeMay touched on this. For whatever reason, they love Reddit. Like Reddit came up so like almost all the time on these each of these models. So I would be curious to see how people are engaging on Reddit, and I can give you some like experiences once we're finished on some things I've heard about Reddit. Um, and then Chat GPT also pulls, and this is where it doesn't work like Google, they pull from pages that aren't even on the top 10. So it's really reading through things than you think. It's going much deeper than you think it is. The next one is Gemini, and surprise, it plays by Google's rules. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we're a bit more familiar with Google Google rules. But the most cited domain is YouTube. So keeping fresh content on YouTube is important. They also mentioned making sure that Google Extended can crawl your site. It's a separate crawler from Google Bots, and most sites never have both checking for you. The next one is Claude. Like this is one of my personal favorites right now. You This is like the professor model. It's really looking for good sources, credible sources. So if your page says something that doesn't hold up, it moves on, and it's looking for like balanced and honest information and dense writing. So I also feel like with these models, like your blog is going to start to be your friend if you don't already have one or if you don't really use it because you don't really want to put super dense writing on a show landing page. But I think your blog is a good place to start adding that information about shows and then adding things like sources. The next one is Grok. I have heard you all know how they feel despite the controversy. This model is very focused on X and it reads your tweets in real time. It runs on Bing, not Google. So it's on a different set of rules and it changes hourly. Copilot, this one is also, I think, one that might be overlooked because it sits inside all of the Microsoft tools. And there's 400 million Microsoft 365 users. Runs on surprise Bing. So make sure again you're submitting your sitemap to the webmaster tools. Again, no surprise. There's a big focus on LinkedIn. So putting content and making sure content is fresh there would be good. I also think it would be, since corporate uses Microsoft and it's all in these tools, I thought it would be interesting to spend some time in here more bolstering like group sales and sponsorships and major giving to try and get brought up in those types of searches. And then the last one is Sonar, which is by Perplexity. This is like the underdog to watch. It has a smaller audience, but it's growing, and people are much more likely to have made a purchase decision. They're converting customers at 9 times the rate of traditional organic visitors. Again, they're looking at Reddit, and they say it's really important to keep your pages updated specifically for this model. So the short of it is you want to get your org talked about on other sources like Reddit, reviews, videos, and more. Update content regularly. Again, I think your blog is going to be your friends because they're looking for lots of writing that doesn't necessarily convert to a ticket sale. Make sure you're using structured data markup, and then make sure that the crawlers can access your site. After I read this article, I started looking around my site and found out through my robots text file that it was not letting crawlers crawl my site. So that's a quick overview of each of those models.